X-ray plates we are having for you, out of which basically, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, we'll have the X-ray chest. X-ray of the lungs and cardiovascular system, respiratory and cardiovascular system X-rays will be most of the plates. So, coming directly to the what they expect from you. So normally the examiners, they expect whether you know how to describe a X-ray of the chest, and whether you can identify different pathology. Pathology means pleural effusion, when like consolidation, which occurs in pneumonia, lung abscess, emphysema, then say pneumothorax. So these 5-6 plates are there. So first I want to show you the normal X-ray. uh, I think it is visible to all of you. And normally, how we describe X-ray? X-ray respiratory system or the X-ray chest, we can have two views. One is a PA view, another is a AP view. So this thing, so when you are asked to just comment on the X-ray, you will say, "Ki sir, this is an X-ray of the chest, PA view or AP view." So how to know which is PA view or AP view? So normally in a PA view, that means posterior anterior view. Posterior means the ray is coming from the posterior, but that means from the back side. And normally the patient holds the plate in the front. So this is called a PA view. That means the direction of the ray is from posterior to anterior. So this helps to make the cardiac shadow more prominent. So if we want to know the cardiac cellularity as well as the respiratory pathology, lung parenchymal pathology, we need a PA view. In AP view, that means anterior to posterior, that means the ray comes from the anterior side and the plate is put on the posterior side. So plate means what me I mean, the X-ray plate is that is a cartridge box is there, so or plate holder, so which is kept posterior to the patient, and the X-ray machine, the source of the beam is from the anterior side. So in this view, the spine becomes more prominent. So whenever you want to know some pathology of the spine, whether it is a thoracic spine or in the abdominal, this sorry, cervical or a thoracic view, so we need a AP view to where the spine pathology will be very prominent. Spine shadow will be very prominent, and the pathology can be identified, like a port spine, whether there is a fracture, whether there is any collection, all these things. So coming to the, so this is the first difference of a PA view and a P view. These things are commonly asked in the exam. So remember, according to the prominence in the whether the cardiac shadow, my cursor is visible. I am putting the cursor in the uh, uh, cardiac cellularity. So if it is more prominent, this is a PA view, and when the spines are more prominent, is AP view. Besides, you will find the clavicle. Clavicle are mostly transverse or horizontal, more horizontal in a PA view, whereas these clavicles becomes more obtuse. Instead of horizontal, this becomes more angulated in a P view. And next, coming to when you say ki this is a X-ray chest PA view, then what to discuss? So first, normally when describing the X-ray, there are two ways. So or systematically to describe the X-ray. So first we say either you can come from the midline to the periphery or periphery to midline. But conventionally, we describe the X-ray from the midline structures first. So first we describe the trachea. So whether all of you can identify trachea in this X-ray? Uh,
Yes, sir.
Hello, Ankita, and others, just
Yes,
see
sir.
in the midline there is a vertical shadow which is black, appearing black. That means contain gas, air inside. So this is the trachea. So position of the trachea, as you know, in the respiratory system examination, always we give a lot of importance to the position of the trachea as it shows or gives some information regarding the pathology. So when it is central, so either there is a no pathology, is a normal, or there can be some pathology which is neutralizing to each other. Suppose there is a right-sided fibrosis, so the trachea will be deviated to the right side, or if there is a left-sided fibrosis, so it will be shifted towards the left. So the position of the trachea can be identified in the X-ray that corroborates our clinical finding. So you first describe that in this X-ray of chest PA view, the trachea is central. Then you describe the cardiac siluety, and in the cardiac siluety, so what we find, whether the cardiac shadow is normal or there is a in cardiomegaly. So this is the midline opaque, this shadow, this is the cardiac shadow, and we usually commonly ask you what are the structures in the right border of the heart, what are the structures in the left border of the heart. Then identify the cardiophrenic angle, and this is costophrenic angle. So these two, three things are commonly asked to the students whether they can identify these or not. So first coming to the cardiac border. So cardiac border, you see here is the right border, then there is the left border, there is the diaphragmatic surface or diaphragmatic border, and there is a cardiophrenic angle, right side and left side. So this is the cardia and the diaphragm. So cardiophrenic angle. So first coming to the structures on the right border of the heart are from above downward, it will be the superior vena cava, the right atrium, and the inferior vena cava shadow. So normally one important finding, that is double contour of the right atrium. So this pathology is usually seen in case of a mitral stenosis. So sometimes, so normally the right border is formed by the right atrium, left atrium usually remains posteriorly. In mitral stenosis, what happens? So the left atrium enlarges. So once the left atrium enlarges, so it puts another shadow over the right atrium. So it may find a double contour of the right atrium on the right border of the heart, and this occurs due to mitral stenosis. Then what are the structures on the left border of the heart? So starting from above downward, so there is the aortic knuckle. So the shadow of the arch of aorta, that is called the aortic knuckle. Normally, as you know, the aorta, the arch of aorta now runs from anterior to posterior, and posteriorly the arch of aorta continues as the descending thoracic aorta, and anteriorly it is the continuation of the ascending aorta. So ascending aorta, there occurs arch of aorta posteriorly, and so aortic knuckle sometimes becomes very prominent in conditions like if there is a aortic aneurysm. So from the at the upper border of the left border of the upper part of the left border of the heart, you may find a bulging that may be due to any aortic aneurysm. So this is called the unfolding, or even like a systemic hypertension. So there may be occurs a unfolding of the aorta. Then the second structure is the pulmonary atrium. So aorta, then comes the left atrial appendage, sorry, pulmonary artery, then left atrial appendage, and the left ventricle. So here is the, after the aortic shadow, there will be the shadow of the pulmonary artery. So this is the left pulmonary artery, and that shadow, there occurs a depression, notch-like structure. So this depression is the pulmonary arterial shadow. So that is called the bay, pulmonary bay. So this notch or depression again becomes full if there is a pulmonary arterial hypertension. So pulmonary arterial hypertension occurs In valvular disease conditions like mitral stenosis, as you know, mitral stenosis puts back pressure on the pulmonary circulation. So initially there occurs pulmonary venous hypertension, then pulmonary capillary wedge pressure increases, and finally it leads to pulmonary arterial hypertension. So there occurs a bulging called pulmonary arterial, the fullness of the pulmonary bay, that is an indicator of the pulmonary arterial hypertension, and it occurs mostly in congenital heart disease, various like VSD, ASD, and you may find this also in mitral stenosis. So cardiac shadow with the pulmonary bay full, there is a hump, pulmonary hump like structure occurs. Then the pulmonary arterial appendage, and the last part up to the cardiac phrenic angle, the downmost is the whole of the left border of the heart, that is due to left ventricle. So this is the left ventricular shadow, this is the right ventricular right atrial shadow, and different structures which compose or consist of the border of the heart. Then comes cardiomegaly. When we say the heart shadow is enlarged more than that the normal. So to know whether the heart shadow has increased, to define that it is cardiomegaly, we take cardiothoracic ratio. So you put a scale in the midline and you measure the farthest distance of the cardiac border on both sides. So suppose you put in the midline, you put a scale, then measure that from the right side, the farthest distance laterally is say 3 centimeter, and from the right, left side it is the maximum distance is 8 centimeter. So 8 plus 3 is 11 centimeter. Then we measure the internal maximum internal diameter of the thorax. So suppose the maximum internal thoracic diameter is say 20. So now the cardio thoracic ratio becomes 20 by 11. So 20 by 11 is that is here less than zero point 0.5. So if it is sorry, cardiothoracic ratio becomes more than zero point 0.5. That means 11 by 20. So if it is more than zero point 0.5, then we say it is cardiomegaly. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt regarding how to calculate the cardiothoracic ratio? So again, I am explaining this one. That you measure the maximum distance of the right border of the heart and left border of that. This may differ at different level, but from the midline, what is the maximum distance to the left border and maximum distance on the right border? Then you combine and divide by the internal thoracic maximum internal thoracic diameter. So suppose as I told here 3, and to the left it is 8, so total becomes 11, and internal maximum thoracic diameter becomes 20, so 11 by 20, so this becomes more than zero point 0.5, or 12 by 20, so this becomes more than 0.5, so we say it is cardiomegaly. So this is how we measure the cardiothoracic ratio and define that patient is having a cardiomegaly. So cardiomegaly means definitely patient is having some valvular lesion, or patient is having a dilated cardiomyopathy. So this is some abnormality is there. So this is the importance. Next comes the cardiophrenic, the apex and the cardiophrenic angle. So normally when the heart is due to left ventricle, the apex is been due to left ventricle. So this becomes more acute. This cardiophrenic angle on the left side becomes more acute. If it is due to right ventricular enlargement, this becomes more obtuse. So this is one point where we know which type of apex is, whether it is the right ventricular apex or it is the left ventricular apex. So after this, you come to the diaphragm. So the dome of the diaphragm on both sides. So normally, as you know, the right side of the dome of the diaphragm is little higher than the left side. This is due to the presence of, so exactly we do not know why, but the presence of the liver. So sometimes maybe explained that the right dome is higher and left dome is lower. And so sometimes we see dome of the diaphragm is elevated. So diaphragmatic palsy, phrenic nerve palsy, other things, they cause the ipsilateral diaphragm to move up, or there is a collapse in the just above the diaphragm. There can be a collapse of the lungs. So this leads to diaphragm to be raised. So there again, so many things are there, like what are the supradiaphragmatic pathology, what are the infradiaphragmatic pathology. Suppose there is a liver mass, there is a liver abscess, there is a subtending post formation collection. So these things will cause this diaphragm to be appear falsely or pseudo or truly to be elevated. So next comes the costophrenic angle. Costophrenic angle is the area between that is the angle formed by the dome of the diaphragm and the border of the thoracic wall. So this costophrenic angle is very important when we read the X-ray chest. So any presence of pleural fluid, extra fluid, will obliterate the costophrenic angle. So this will be homogeneous opacity, which is due to collection of the fluid, either pleural fluid or a pus inside. So this is an evidence of pleural effusion. So suppose there is a non-homogeneous mass or homogeneous mass, but if the costophrenic angle is clear, that rules out any pleural effusion. So sometimes we are confused with a pleural effusion and a low lobe pneumonia. So pneumonia looks like a homogeneous opacity, and pleural fluid also will but if there is no if the costophrenic angle is not obliterated, that means there is no pleural fluid. So this is one aspect we have to look for. Next comes the pulmonary lung fields. So in the lung fields, what we'll see, lung fields are divided into three zones. According from the top to bottom, we divide the lung fields into three zones and describe the pathology in each part. So normally, if you look, these are the you should be able to identify the posterior aspect of the lips and the anterior aspect of the lips. So in a PA view, what you see, the ribs are horizontal. The posterior part of the ribs, that is the horizontal, which is seen more conspicuously, more prominent. And you see the anterior end. If you trace a rib, you will see how it bends anteriorly and becomes a like acutely joins to the midline. So the posterior part are more horizontal and more angular are the anterior ends. So from the apex to the lower border of the second rib anteriorly, this is called the upper zone. From the upper zone to the, that means the anterior end of the second rib to the anterior end of the fourth rib is the mid zone, and fourth rib down, this area is called the lower zone. So as you just remember, the X-rays are defined, described as zones, upper, middle, and lower. But when you clinically examine, those are the areas of, we say ki, interscapular area, infrascapular area, then anteriorly we say axillary. So that is the area here we define as zones. So you have to look for the pathology in both the sides, in upper zone, mid zone, and lower zones. So you describe ki there is a homogeneous opacity or a non-homogeneous opacity, there is fibrosis, there is some lesion in right side upper zone or right side mid zone and lower zone. Because accordingly we can convert it into anatomically which part of the lung is affected. Suppose if you say ki right middle zone is affected, that means the right side middle lobe is affected. Normally, as you know, on the right side would have the right upper lobe, middle lobe, and lower lobe. So lower zone is lower zone, lobe is affected. Upper part is upper zone, upper lobe, and middle part middle zone. So here also, so many times we can see the fissure can be also the minor fissure is prominent. This occurs in pneumonia and other things. So these are the, this is also next after the pulmonary parenchyma description. Then you define the ribs. So sometimes there occurs crowding of ribs. So there will be less space in between the ribs in one side, whereas this is normally on the other side. So the crowding of the ribs are present or not. So crowding of ribs indicate that there is an underlying either fibrosis or collapse for a long time. Chronic fibrosis, long-standing collapse. So the due to loss of volume, long volume, there will be collapse of this intercostal spaces decrease. We say this is crowding of the ribs. So these are various things we have to look for in the pulmonary parenchyma. Now coming to some of the X's. Now I have actually described how to, what are the things to look for, then you describe. So here you see, as I have described, the trachea is central. This is X-ray chest PA view. The trachea, the posterior part of the ribs are very transversely present. The cardiac shadow is well, is prominent, and in between vertebrae are not visible. So this is X-ray chest PA view. And you look to the trachea is central. You say trachea is central, and there is a, what is the most prominent finding? There is a homogeneous opacity in the left side with obliteration of the costophrenic angle, and the concavity, there is a, and a concavity upward. So this is the characteristic of features of a pleural effusion. So this is a pleural effusion on the left side. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
well, so Heather, all of you can identify a pleural effusion, because this will be given almost to almost all patients, students. You'll find we have only, I will keep 3-4 cases of pleural effusion. So most of the people will get a pleural effusion, should be able to identify without any mistake. So this is another X-ray, that is the that was the right side. Here also the same. So this is a left-sided pleural effusion. So you should be able to answer related questions to the pleural effusion. Basically, they show you a X-ray, whether you can identify it. Then they ask further questions regarding pleural effusion. What are the causes of pleural effusion? What are the causes of left-sided pleural effusion? What are the causes of bilateral pleural effusion? Then they will ask what is Light's criteria, what is a transudate, what is exudate. So you should do, so just prepare for yourself accordingly. How to, what is the difference between transudative fluid and exudative fluid, in which condition there will be bilateral effusions. So so all the causes you should be able to enumerate. Okay, so I'll just show the quickly, because within 1 hour I have to cover some of the pathological findings which may be shown to you. So now after pleural effusion, I hope all of you will be able to identify pleural effusion. Sometimes what happens, there will be insisted pleural effusion. That means the costophrenic angle is not obliterated, but there is a homogeneous opacity with a clear margin, and which is located peripherally. So this is that is insisted pleural effusion. Sometimes you may find that is loculated. I hope you can understand that there is a loculated fluid that is not communicating freely to the pleural space. That is why it does not trickle down to the most dependent part of the pleural space. That is the this costophrenic space. So this, that is a called a insisted pleural effusion. So now coming to also one of the, so here what do you find, the trachea is central, cardiac solute is normal, and there is a homogeneous, non-homogeneous opacity, rather you can say. Homogeneous means it's a continuous opacity, and if you find in between there is studded air, that is black dots. So black dots show ki these are the bronchi containing air. So we say that is a air bronchogram, that is called. So this is consolidation in the right middle lobe. So probably this is the right middle of pneumonia. So here you find costophrenics are free, and there's a local confined consolidation with the air bronchogram inside. This is a consolidation right middle lobe. So again, now you can also say this is again a consolidation. So you find there is not homogeneous opacity. There is a black dots inside. So this is a non-homogeneous with air bronchogram, very typical of a lobar pneumonia. So once you will be shown a lobar pneumonia, you have to answer, or further questions may be like, what are the common causes of pneumonia, lobar pneumonia? What is bronchopneumonia? What are the causes of bronchopneumonia? What are the causes of bilateral bronchopneumonia? Now viral COVID pneumonia, as you know, is a viral pneumonia. It causes bronchopneumonia pattern, bilateral. patchy opacities bilaterally. So this is very typical of a COVID pneumonia. And so this is lobar pneumonia, like what causes may you will ask, like staph, pneumo, Klebsiella, or other things. So again, this is also just I want to show you pleural effusion, then next pneumonia. Here what you find, you see look at the cardiac angle, cardiac shadows all are normal. There is trachea is central, but if you look at the right side, almost no significant finding. But in the left side, in the upper zone, upper to mid zone, there is a cavity. There is a well circumscribed gas area with a margin border, or we say this is the margin. So this is thick walled margin. This opacity is the margin, white color ring. So this is the margin. So this is a long abscess. So this is right upper lobe long, sorry, left upper lobe long abscess. And here what we see, look at the X-ray. So what you find, the right side, the chest is fully expanded and it is totally black. So when air comes into the pleural space, so the underlying vascularity you cannot be seen. So compared to the left side and the right side, the midline, the cardiac shadow almost is pushed to the left side. The there is the left lungs is almost collapsed, compressed, and there is a totally black, or we say this is uh, gas shadow all over the long field through the cost, and then the expanded hemithorax. This is a huge pneumothorax. So that can be, can identify. So we have also one slide of pneumothorax. So get yourself acquainted with some of the questions. What are the different types of pneumothorax? What is a tension pneumothorax, and how to treat with a water seal drainage and all. So prepare accordingly. And tuberculosis commonly given. So this is like a you see bilateral involvement, upper and mid zone involvement. These are very typical of tuberculosis. So whenever you will be given an X-ray with involvement of the upper zone or extensive bilateral involvement with fibrosis. So fibrosis, how you will know that there is fibrosis? So you'll see the trachea is deviated to the same side. That is evidence of fibrosis. Upper lobe involvement. This is very typical of tuberculosis. You will find multiple shadows of different types, like soft shadows, hard shadows, fibrotic bands. So these are fibrotic bands will be seen like a opaque bands. So these are evidence of tuberculosis. There may be cavity inside. Here there is a cavity on the left side. If my cursor is moving, so this is a cavity. So multiple pathology, cavity, fibrosis, there will be bands, some soft consultations. These all are typical of a tubercular lung. So this is a tuberculosis. So next again, this is the pneumothorax, emphysematous chest. So here what we find, another shadow, the X-ray picture shows the trachea is central, and if you look to the lung field, this is vertically the diameter is increased, and the long heart shadow becomes more tubular because of the emphysematous, the inflated lungs bilaterally. So it overlaps the cardiac shadow, and the cardiac shadow looks like a tubular structure, and you'll find increased bronchovascular markings in the lung fields. This is very typical of emphysema. Just look at the X-ray, can identify. If you look at the vertical diameter, it is enlarged, increased vertical diameter, and there will be the heart shadow will be tubular looking. So this is emphysema. Next, coming to long abscess. Long abscess one I have already shown. Here also you look, there is a border covering the cavity inside. So this is the X-ray of a long abscess. and they will find air inside and surrounded by a margin with thick walled margin. So this is the set of a long abscess. Another one, this is long abscess on the left side. So you will be asked questions like what are the common pathology, the microorganism causing long abscess, what is the clinical picture, like a clogging and all. So these things will be asked to you, and what antibiotic will be are preferably given in long cases of long abscess and all. So these are the questions you should be prepared. Next, regarding cardiac shadow, so you look to the X-ray, look to the cardiac shadow. This is a huge cardiac shadow, and this is more uniform. Bilaterally, if you look, normally cardiac shadow, there is the right side is less prominent and left side is more prominent due to left ventricle. But it is here you find a symmetrically globular heart. So this is very typical of a pericardial effusion. And so bilaterally it is enlarged like a water bottle appearance, which and this is a X-ray of the pericardial effusion. Normal cardiomegaly, you can just see the difference between the previous one and the present one. So here, still now there is a, suppose in a dilated cardiomyopathy, there will be enlargement on both sides, but the more increased in the left. So this is more of a cardiomegaly, should not be confused with the like a pericardial effusion. Here you see how it is enlarged on bilateral. So next, this is X-ray of the mitral stenosis. Sometimes they ask, what are the clinic X-ray picture of a mitral stenosis? We had one or two cases of X-ray of mitral stenosis. So this is called the straightening of the left border of the heart. So you see this picture. Here is the X-ray of the heart shadow. What is the heart shadow? That is the left border, and you look at this one. So here, so the left border of the heart becomes straight. This is due to pulmonary arterial hypertension, which normally puts a notch. So this has been fooled because of pulmonary arterial hypertension, and this is the culturally straightening of the left border of the heart. This is due to mitral stenosis. So in another picture here, you see the bilateral infiltrations. If you find patchy opacities in the both the lung fields, more in the this hilar lesion and upper part, this is more often due to a heart failure or pulmonary venous congestion. So this is usually confused with the ARDS. So ARDS and heart failure, almost similar picture comes. One is a cardiogenic pulmonary edema, another is a non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. That is the ARDS. So normally, how we find if there is a cardiomegaly associated, probably this is a heart failure. And if it is not, and a clinical history, if patient is having acute onset, so we say this is more of ARDS. So in both the heart failure and ARDS, you'll find patchy confluent shadows in both the lung fields. And so this is typical of ARDS. This is more of a, because more hilar involvement and more patchy confiltrations in fetal. So this is of a heart failure. So ARDS. So now just to summarize what I have shown you, I have discussed how to describe X-ray. One thing, sometimes they ask how to know which is the right side or left side. So just remember, right or left depends basically like the fundic gas, presence of the fundic gas. Look to the left side below the diaphragm, so you'll find a gas shadow that is normally this, which is in the left side. So fundic gas normally helps us. Second, the cardiac apex. So the left side normally is indicated by the presence of the cardiac silhouette. So sometimes if there is a dextrocardia, so you will find just reverse. That means on the right side you will find the apex. The silhouette is just a mirror image. So in that case also, the fundic gas gives us idea that this is left side and the, another is the right side. And more important, normally while doing the X-ray, the radiographer also puts a mark L or R depending on the radio opaque mark on the side of the patient. So that can also that gives us a more objectively, okay, this is the left side and right side. So these are the things. So pleural effusion, consolidation, long abscess, then pneumothorax, then emphysematous chest, then cardiac lesion, the pericardial effusion, cardiomegaly, mitral stenosis, and ARDS and heart failure. So almost these are the things. Out of this, there will be questions. Some plates are presented there. So before concluding, at least some CT scans I'll show you for your because CT may be shown to some of you, though it will be very less. Normally, I'll show you so only pathology. Uh, hello, hello,
Yes, sir.
Ankita.
Yes, sir.
How much time we have to complete within next 10 minutes something? How
So
much
we
time
have
is left with
20 minutes. We have
20
20
minutes?
minutes.
So coming to CT scans, there will be with the examiner. They may ask somebody, if somebody gives better answer, maybe one or two. So it will be shown with the CT scans. So CT scan, basically, I will not go in details. This will be CT scan is better than MRI in some situations. So normally CT scans are very helpful to identify any intraventricular hemorrhage. So in acute cases, so acute cases like any trauma, acute onset loss of consciousness, like stroke. So stroke, any road traffic accident, any head injury. So the first thing we should order for is a CT scan, because the acute presence of the blood is better detected by the CT scan than even MRI. So MRI and CT, for you, basic difference you remember, MRI identifies the tissue better than the blood. So that means what I mean to say, like in the brain, the different component, brain parenchyma, like gray matter, white matter, the various nucleus, everything they have been, because the fluid content is different. So they are identified. Like if you take a MRI of the any limb, so muscle, tendon, nerves, spine, spinal cord, the everything will be very clearly. But CT scan has its own advantage. It depicts any bony changes very clearly. Bony abnormality can be better detected by CT than MRI, and soft tissue things are better identified in MRI than CT scan. And acute blood, that is hemorrhage, this is better detected by CT scan than MRI. That is why any patient comes to the casualty in with a head injury or acute unconsciousness, the CT scan is usually ordered. So CT scan usually is taken from the base. Here you see there are different cords. We can take depending on the technician or our need. We can take larger cords, so that suppose the brain here is around 12, 14 cords are there. So if we want smaller cords, smaller size, smaller pathology to be identified, we can take cords. Like it, instead of 14, we can have a like 25 slices. So we can different cords. So starts from the base of the lung, sorry, brain. So base of the brain. Here is the upper one. So gradually, we have taken higher and higher cords. So finally, the last one is the apex, the calvarium, the topmost section. So here we identify, like at the base, we identify what is the medulla. Here is the medulla. Now comes the cerebellum. Cerebellum. Next comes the cerebellum posterior fossa is clearly seen with the transverse the spectral sinuses, and above we will find these are the cords with the internal capsule, and ventricles are very clearly seen. So now higher up you will be seeing the like, ventricles, and finally on the upper part. So here, um, in normal CT scan, this is the skull, and we describe the in X-ray we say this is radiolucent and radio open. So the shadows are radiolucent, that means more black, or radio opaque, that more white. But here how we describe, we see in CT scan we describe as density, whether it is a hypodense or hyperdense. So hypodense means that will be black, hyperdense means white. So this bone is hyperdense. That means it is expressed as Hounsfield unit, and bone is around 1000 Hounsfield unit. So gradually the maximum Hounsfield unit is having. So this out. So gradually it becomes normal brain parenchyma and becomes black. So black means water. So water content in the brain becomes like this is the cerebrospinal fluid. This will be black or hypodense. If there is infarct, that will be black. That is called hypodense. All those blood becomes white because of the presence of the hemoglobin, that is the iron ions. So that becomes more hypertense. So this is a normal city. And here I also show this is what is the infarct and hemorrhage. This basic difference you should be able to identify in the CT scan. So if you look at the left side, left is one normal, and the middle one is having hypodense lesion in the left. Sorry, this is the right side. Always uh, mm, uh, right side means patient is just the your left side is the patient's right side, your right side is patient's left side. So this is the right side of the brain involving the temporofrontal, parietal, and occipital region. So it's a large, in fact, in the MCA territory. And so this is hypodense lesion, which is a sign of infection. If you look to the other one, the left extreme left one, here you find white lesions. These are the hyperdense lesions. These are basically in the intracerebral bleeds. Okay, there is a midline shift and all. So you should simply identify what is a infarct and what is a hemorrhage in the brain CT scan. So this is again a huge infarction in the right side with extending from the frontal and parietal region. This is also like a, due to a large infarct in the MCS, embolic phenomena in the stem of the MCA. So this is another. Here is also this is infarct in the right side MC. Here is another infarct in the posterior part of this is the occipital lesion in the right side. Uh, Here, what is this is called edema. So if you find a diffuse edema, this black or hypodensity throughout the lung field, this is very typical of a lung tumor. So tumor usually gives like a glioblastoma. So there will be extensive edema surrounding the tumor. So this is a extensive edema indicative of brain tumor. And so intracerebral bleeds. Intracerebral bleeds basically, I am just giving some idea within next five to 10 minutes. So normally when there is a bleed, we describe whether this is a epidural, whether this is a subdural or inside the brain or intracerebral or subarachnoid. So four types of hemorrhages or hematomas can be seen in the brain. So when it is above the dura, that means suppose there is a fracture of the skull. So blood trickles down and there occurs a epidural. So epidural hematomas are biconcave. So there is a concavity towards the medial side, as well as there is a convexity to the outside. So convex. So biconvexity usually is a sign of epidural hematoma. And in subdural hematoma, what we find, there is a concavo-convex. That means outside is concave and the inside is a convex one. So this is called a subdural. These basic difference we should keep in mind. And intracerebral bleed, as you know, it will be inside the parenchyma. Subarachnoid bleed usually we see look for in the cistern. That is the normally subdural subarachnoid hemorrhages are due to berry aneurysm in the circle of Willis. So when there is a rupture, so the blood will collect in the circle of Willis, surrounding the circle of Willis. That is the basal cistern. So basal cistern will contain the blood. So next, coming to some cities plates. Here this is a concavo biconvex. So this is a epidural hematoma. Here it is a intracerebral hematoma. Here you see there is the edema. This is a that is the hyperdensity extending in the frontoparietal region on the right side, and there is a convexity inside. So this is a subdural hematoma, right side subdural hematoma. Here is another. There is a subdural hematoma on the left side, and there is extending. So the outside is convex, and sorry, concave, and this side is convex. So this is typical of a subdural hematoma. Here is a epidural hematoma. There is a head injury. You see there is a extra outside also soft tissue edema, and inside there is a just a lens, just a by convex hyperdense lesion. This is a typical of extradural or epidural, sorry, epidural hematoma. Here is another epidural hematoma. Here is a tumor. So there is a perilesional edema, and but this is contrast uptake by the tumor surrounding vascularity and contrast uptake. So this is a brain tumor. And here is again a brain tumor. You will find there is hypodensity lesions, a brain abscess. Brain abscess is a see how it looks like a brain abscess. And tuberculoma, there are multiple studded lesions are there. Here this is a small lesions, multiple lesions. This is more typical of a tuberculoma, sometimes confused with the lymphoma of the brain, sometimes confused with a neurocysticercosis. And so so basically, we have tried to explain the common X-ray plates will be given to you. So prepare yourself for to answer and identify pleural effusion, pneumothorax, pneumonia or consultations, lung abscess, heart failure, uh, pericardial effusion, and one or two ARDS plates may be given to you. So that basically answering its other questions. Theoretically, you little prepare accordingly, and I hope everything you can answer and identify the X-rays will be given to you. And any question from you? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Ankita, anybody if any doubt can ask me. Uh, I hope this time you will have very good exam in the medicine exam will be very good. So don't worry for the exam what will be asked or not. So this time for COVID situation, probably we are going to have your exam in a different way. Last time what happened, this time also accordingly we will take the exam, and very positive mindset appear in the exam, and you will do better. So any questions? I'm waiting.
Thank you, sir.
And I hope everything is clear to you related to this X-ray of the chest particularly. This is the things will be asked to you. So best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Right, right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay, bye. So we'll end the class here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
If no
Okay, sir.
question, I will end. If anything you ask related to exam or X-ray, I am here to answer anything.
हेलो।
Hello.
ये सर सर हार्ट फेलियर और टीबी का एक्सरे डिफरेंशिएट कैसे करेंगे?
Heart failure or TB?
यस सर।
Okay. So normally tuberculosis you will find upper lobe involvement, upper zone का जो findings होगा. I am just
यस
seeing and just explaining. So just look at it. There will be multiple just जैसे different shadows and fibrosis. Normally tuberculosis is a chronic problem, whereas heart failure is an acute event. right?
Okay.
So you'll find more fibrosis, fibrotic bands. Can you think of? So, and the trachea is most of the time is deviated to either one side, the side where having fibrosis. So loss of the
Okay.
lung tissue, and you find not only the upper part of the hilum, that is the midline, the trachea, but also the lungs, the sorry, cardiac side may be pulled to the same side, and there will be multiple punched out lesions. That means not exactly punched out, that is radio opaque shadows. We say consolidation, features of consolidation. You may find features of cavity, fibrosis. So these things in a broader area. Most of the time it is apex, because as you know, tuberculosis affects the apical zones.
Yep.
So sometimes they ask you, when you say ki, okay sir, there is a lesion in the apex of the lungs, or apex and mid upper zone, so they say, okay, what are the other pathology which affects the upper zone, like this pneumoconiosis, silicosis, so some of the other, and pneumonia, so like Klebsiella. So there are some pathology which typically affect the upper zone. That question usually asked accordingly, so, at the same time. So this is tuberculosis. There will be features of fibrosis, fibrotic band, and patchy consolidations, cavity, all this. But in a heart failure, there will be only confluent shadows without any fibrosis, without any tracheal deviation. And if you look at the different pathology, they are of the same uniform type in heart failure. Whereas just, can you see here, there is no tracheal deviation, no fibrotic bands. Okay, so these are all features of only patchy opacity is bilateral lung field. This is due to presence of the fluid, alveolar edema. So the alveolar fluid appears as this thing. Okay, and sometimes is associated with a cardiomegaly. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
ठीक है. Okay, bye. So we'll end the session.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.